Once upon a time, there was a Lego wolf minifigure, and in this video, I'm going to be building him a multi-level townhouse for 23 Ville inspired by a ton of classic fairy tales. Chapter 1. So this is the wolf costume guy minifig from the 90th anniversary Series 23 collection. Compared to some of the past animal costume figures, it looks pretty good. This is actually a new hat piece with these vicious teeth, and unlike before, the wolf isn't walking around nude. But that actually causes a problem, as putting clothes on animals usually does, because his tail piece makes this gray line along his hip that looks so ugly. Maybe he's wearing a crop top or something, I don't know. But the iconic sack that they all have for some reason is printed, which is nice. My prediction for the next one is a monkey with a blue sack. I think that could work. We're calling this guy Winston, by the way. Thanks for all the great suggestions, but don't let a gentle sounding name hide the fact that if you flip his head around, he's actually supposed to be the big bad wolf. Lego already made one of these in the pop-up book set a few years ago, but that was the one from Little Red Riding Hood. This guy with his huffing and puffing and asthma is from the Three Little Pigs. So we're gonna base each floor of his townhouse on their materials of choice: straw, sticks, and bricks. No, Jimmy, leave him alone. I mean, technically all Lego is made with bricks, or plastic, I guess, but we're gonna use our imagination and grab some textured pieces to represent the straw, sticks, and bricks. We want this sturdiest floor to be on the bottom, for obvious reasons, so we're actually gonna build the top floor first and work our way down, starting with Chapter 2, straw. I considered being quirky and building this out of like drinking straws instead, like this one I made that you can technically use, but please don't. However, since it's going right next to the ocean, I don't want to undo all of Team C's hard work and kill a bunch of dolphins, so we could say they're paper straws, but those are the absolute worst. So no, we're just doing regular straw, which Minecraft taught me is yellow. I started building the walls, but then realized this is way too sturdy already. This is supposed to be the weakest floor, so I used some galaxy brain building techniques, clipping all these plates together into a hexagonal shaped straw bale or honeycomb kind of thing. See, this is much more realistic. But as I was rebuilding everything, I added spaces for windows on two of the sides so you don't just suffocate here in this tiny interior, which we'll be designing after all 3 floors are done. On the outside, I spammed these grill pieces for detail, except I had exactly one less than I needed. So I rearranged them a bit to add these red bindings on the outside. Again, learned this from Minecraft. But crisis averted. I struggled to come up with a roof design that could fit on this awkward round shape. Like, what is this? So eventually I had to resort to using illegal building techniques to clip these triangle plates upside down, because it's the grand return of amputation sensation, where I stole a bunch of minifigure hands to add some extra detail on top. But even that was still too sturdy, so I made 6 of these golf club things to fill in the gaps that literally aren't even attached to anything. I don't want the entire roof to be yellow though, so it'd be cool to mix in these dark tan bushes, but for the life of me, I could not find a good way to attach them. Even Lego Technic didn't work. I need something hollow and flexible that can somehow attach to the bottom of the... Sorry, dolphins. This will be perfect. I cut the straw into 6 pieces, taped them all together to form like an octopus, or a hexapus, I guess, and did a whole lot of finagling to get it all situated right. Some angles of it look better than others, and the top is just ugly. Let's just cover that up right now. But I think I like it, and it's definitely unique. But can it withstand
the blow test?
Winston is huffing and puffing with some firepower.
3, 2, 1.
There are hands everywhere. The roof and wall fell off. I'd say this was a success. Let me rebuild it real quick, and now we're on to Chapter 3. What's brown and sticky? It's a stick. I used to really like Lincoln logs, especially the staggered look of the corners. So I'm gonna use a ton of these wood print tiles to try to make a sort of log cabin or stick cabin style second floor. Except I only have enough for the front 2 corners, so we just have to use normal studs for the back. These pieces work really well for logs, but they aren't going the right direction to line up with the corners. I couldn't find a good way to connect them all sideways, so whatever. We'll just stick with it. I left this gap for a door big enough for a minifig to fit through, and added windows to each of the walls with plenty of interior space to decorate later. Then we can tile it off to add 2 different roofs. One more traditional design, straight off a maple syrup bottle to display by itself, and another we can stack the straw house on top of for our tower. Technically, this stick floor is still weaker than the straw because brown Lego will shatter if you look at it funny. So let's just reinforce it with some cast iron beams for
the blow test.
All right, here we go.
All right, same kind of damage for the straw, but the sticks held out. I think the reinforcements really helped. But with that, let's move on to Chapter 4.
It's fun.
Using a bunch of snot bricks, you can make a really cool brick wall pattern. A whole house like this would be incredible, but I would need over 100 more of these, so we'll mainly be using LEGO's official masonry bricks to go for a more modern aesthetic. Normally, I don't like building modern, it just feels like there's not enough detail, but since the top 2 floors are arguably too detailed, this will be a nice way to balance it out. Just don't look at the pack where I ran out of bricks. To compensate, I used a ton of small pieces to make this chinny chin chimney detailed to my normal obsessive degree that Winston can barely squeeze through if he takes his tail off. I still don't have any glass panes to fill these windows with, but I realized I could steal these gold ones to use instead. This little piggy is upper class. As I was building the roof, everything just exploded, so that's a good sign. But I finished up the chimney, and now we can add the top 2 floors. This thing looks sturdy, so I can probably change the cast iron to something that looks a bit nicer, but we're gonna save the final
Blow test.
until it's placed into the city. First, we need to address Chapter 5, the backstory. Winston was an old washed-up actor who washed up on the shore of 23ville one day. The last thing he could remember was doing a gig for a kid's birthday party that went horribly wrong. He tried to make a raft with some of the debris to escape, but after failing with the straw raft, the stick raft, and the brick raft, I don't know why he tried that one, he gave up and just built this shelter to survive. And now we're gonna decorate said shelter in Chapter 6. Since the exterior of the shack is inspired by the 3 little pigs, okay, that's way more than 3. Comment below which 3 of these should move in with him. But we're gonna speed run through a ton of other fairy tales, some of which I got from Instagram, by the way, and pick one object from each to add to the interior. Like from Little Red Riding Hood, we can take the bottle of apple juice for grandma. From The Boy Who Cried Wolf, we'll take a phone. From the tortoise and the hare, we'll take this finish line pattern to build a floor for a kitchen that we can stock with all kinds of foods, like the porridge from Goldilocks, pumpkin from Cinderella, apple from Snow White, egg from Humpty Dumpty and or green eggs and ham, pie from the Pied Piper, and breadcrumbs from Hansel and Gretel. I wonder where they lead to. But we can cook all this up in a fireplace connected to the chimney, sending all the ash and smoke to the very flammable floors above. Great plan. From the creepiest fairy tale of all time, Elf on the Shelf, I built this shelf over the fireplace, but I want nothing to do with the elf, so we'll put the sword in the stone here instead. Someone on Instagram suggested Shrek, and I don't really want to use anything from this, but I guess these boots from Puss in Boots could work. Hickory dickory dock, here's a clock. Hey diddle diddle, there's a fiddle. Ouch, here's a couch, I don't know. But we've got a potted bean plant from Jack and the Beanstalk, and a drain pipe from Itsy Bitsy Spider. I also got some comments about the bad guys, so I also made the wolf guy, the shark guy, the snake, the spider, and I have no idea what this thing's supposed to be. Maybe like a gopher? But there you go. Upstairs, there's a bed from Sleeping Beauty, a brush to manage all that costume fur from Rapunzel, Let Down Your Hair. No hair. And I had to look up what a tuffet was from Little Miss Muffet, but that's pretty much all we have space for up on this floor. And now, with all 3 interiors looking amazing, or 2 out of 3 isn't bad, we can put everything back together, and Chapter 7 is adding it to our LEGO city called 23ville. I'm trying to build a house like this for every Series 23 minifigure, and this one can go right here next to the ocean where Winston washed ashore one day. Except it can't be this close to the movie theater without Cornelius escaping, so to position it over the water, I built this sturdy rock outcropping as a foundation for the final
Blow test.
Alright, if this survives, you have to subscribe.
Well, we huffed and we puffed, but we couldn't blow it down, so I think you know what to do. The end.